Have you ever noticed that when fall arrives, you find yourself wanting a new term, a new semester? You want to start a season and know by the end of it, in this case, by Christmas break, you are going to have had some new learning experiences, some new reading experiences. I feel that way anytime the season changes. And so we have this ritual in Paper and Glam of assigning ourselves a whole reading list for the season. And we discuss those books together. So today I am unveiling your Glam Fall reading guide. If you are brand new, these books are member voted. So I present 3 titles for every month, and they are seasonal titles. They fit the reading experiences that we have come to love over the decade plus of books we've read together. We have been reading a book a month together since September 2014, and I have created the Paper and Glam experience for women who don't want to put off the things that they're longing for a different season, because life never gets simpler, it never gets easier, it just gets different. So we have to make time for the things that we love today. And today we're making time for a literary lifestyle. So the heart behind this video, and if you were with me for the summer reading list debut, you know exactly how this works. I'm going to walk through the 3 titles that I presented for every month of fall. And then you're gonna predict which one you think won. And then I'm gonna tell you which one the Paper and Glam sisters voted to read together. So it's kind of fun, a little bit like a game show, but also I hope it helps you build your fall reading list. These are the books I would love to get to this fall. I always plan to get to all of them. I don't, but I know what books I'm reading next. And when we know what's next, we have things we're looking forward to read. When we have those gaps in our days, we can make it happen, whether that's 10 minutes before bed or 10 minutes while you're waiting to pick up your kids from school. You will be amazed at how much you can reclaim for yourself just in those little pockets of time if we have a plan, right? We're all about planning, seasonal living, book club, and Bible study here at Paper and Glam. So today, let's get reading for fall. September. The vibes of September is, of course, back to school, back to learning, and so we have embodied that in these fall titles, in these September titles. So the first one is Overdue by Stephanie Perkins. If you are not familiar with Stephanie Perkins, she is a celebrated YA author. So she primarily has written young adult in the past. This is her adult debut, or her new adult. I always get those confused. So young adult is younger, then we have new adult. So this is her new adult debut. So this is written about women who are in their 20s, whereas young adults is more like the high school years. As I understand it, my bookish literati can correct me in the comments, but that's what I think of when I think of new adult. So this book, the first thing we need to know is, we have Paper and Glam pink edges. So obviously this was immediate yes please at Barnes & Noble. The other thing we need to know is this book is so beautiful. The end pages are gorgeous. We have these flowers that are just screaming September, screaming late summer, early fall. Then we have the library card image here. And then the other thing that is so Paper and Glam is that the book itself runs through January through December. So the chapters, and again, all throughout the book, you have this library styling. And yes, we do have a library setting. So you see this first chapter says January written on a library card. Chef's kiss, I just love that structure. This just felt so Paper and Glam. Okay, so what is this book about? Why should you want to read it? Okay, so the story is the main character, Ingrid, she is working as a librarian, and she has been kind of living the same life for 10 years. She's been with her boyfriend for 10 years, and she really hasn't thought too much about the future, right? She hasn't thought too much about the woman that she wants to be. She is living the life that she fell into, in the life that she chose really 10 years ago. And so she goes on a heroine's journey, as we call it in Paper and Glam land, to go ahead and figure out if the life that she chose 10 years ago really fits today and who she wants to be going forward. So we know that there is always a catalyst, right? There's a call to adventure in every story that we pick up. That's usually what kicks off the plot. And when you join the Paper and Glam experience, I have a reading masterclass. You can take at your own leisure, and it walks through everything that you will find in your books so that you can start to pick things out and read like a professor. So we talk about the plots that you'll find in every book, and we also incorporate these topics into each book club discussion too. So not just like because we want to be extra little bright academia girlies, which we do. Paper and Glam, the vibe has always been bright academia, but also because when you know what plots you like, when you see the structures of the books that you love, the themes that you love, you can start to become a better reader, meaning you are picking books that are in your wheelhouse that you're going to love instead of suffering through books that you're like, oh, I thought I would like this, but it's not really working for me, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's not holding my attention. So when you start to learn those things to look for, you start to really be able to build this literary lifestyle you love, and you also can vote on what books you want to read with us every month from a little bit more of the point of view of like, okay, this is right in my wheelhouse, this is the one for me, because I intentionally make each book a different vibe. Each book kind of speaks to a different reader on purpose. So the goal is that every year you have books that are straight in your wheelhouse, and then you have books that push you outside your comfort zone, and then you have books that you're like, I would never have picked this up in a million years, but I absolutely loved this reading experience, and I want to look for books that are going to give me the same reading experience. Okay, back to overdue. So what kicks off this chain of events is that Ingrid's sister gets engaged immediately or close after meeting someone, and she's like, wait, she's already getting married and I've been with someone for 10 years and we haven't even talked about marriage. And then her and her boyfriend decide to take a break from the relationship and figure out who they are and whether they do want to get married. And then we have this beautiful coming of age book, but also it's timely no matter what age you are. If you were not, for most of us in PNG land are not in the new adult age range that, like the 20s age range, although we do have some 20s girls and I love that. But it is that exploration, because I think we have to do this every decade, right? We have to think about like, does the life I chose for myself still fit who I want to be going forward? Because it's really easy to just keep doing things because you've always done them. So we have a lot of beautiful articulations of that experience that we all go through. And I just love books that are articulating the female experience and giving us ways to look at it that we may not have seen, or articulate it in ways that fit exactly what we're experiencing. So this book is for you if you love libraries, bookstores, that you love a librarian romance, and also a Grumpy Sunshine romance. That is all in here. And it's just for anyone who feels like, you know what, it's time to reinvent myself. Who I was before is not fitting who I want to be in the future. Okay, next. Our next book is a psychological thriller, and it has fall vibes all the way, bordering on Glamoween vibes, which is Death of a Bookseller. Now, if you look at this, it kind of looks like a cozy mystery. This is not a cozy mystery. Like I said, this is a psychological thriller, but it is set in a bookstore. So again, we have these back to school bookish vibes, but it is not... It's not going to give you that same cozy librarian setting as the first book. This is an exploration of culture and true crime, and also a complete roast of all of us basic pumpkin spice girlies. So if you want to laugh and you want to also think about just the way that we treat true crime and like salacious stories and culture, and you also want to have fun, this is the book for you. So what happens? So in Alice Slater's Death of a Bookseller, we have two characters who work at a bookstore together. One's name is Roach. Yes, Roach. This is, okay, before I tell you more, this book is more in the vein of the Bunny series, right? We Love You, Bunny. It's definitely right in the publishing trend of weird girl fiction. So let me tell you that right off the bat. So similar to how we had like protagonist named Bunny, protagonist named Bunny. If you read the book, you know, it sounds weird, but okay. So similar to that, this is the same, where we have a protagonist named Roach, and which should tell you immediately, this is that weird girl trope that we love, and it's very literary. So this is going to be less like kind of like contemporary fiction and much more in the literary fiction, psychological thriller type moment. So it's kind of both of those genres, but it's really easy reading. I actually started reading it and I was like, this has to be a book club pick. I cannot read this book alone. It is not meant to be read alone. I need to read it with my sisters and I need everyone else to be roasted for being a basic seasonal girly. Not that there's anything basic about the season. That's how God created us to live. That's the whole premise of Paper and Glam, always has been, but it's just funny to hear yourself roasted through the eyes of someone who sees themselves more as like a goth girly. Okay, so Roach is working at a bookstore. She's true crime obsessed, and she is annoyed that all the basic pumpkin spice girlies are like now in on the true crime thing when they're just in on it because it's trendy. And like, that's annoying because she's been doing this thing her whole life and they're not really fans and they're just crowding out the space and like, this is her thing, right? And her thing has become mainstream. And so she is in that space. She's attending events with authors. And I know a lot of you attend events with authors. So she is that type of devoted to her true crime. And then she has a new employee start at the bookstore named Laura. And Laura seems like, at first, she's like this girl that maybe Roach wants to be friends with. Maybe she's a basic pumpkin spice girly. She's trying to figure her out. And Laura gives her no air supply, none. And so Roach is like, what the heck? Why doesn't she want to be my friend? I feel like she's hiding something. And then Roach decides to do her own little investigation into Laura's background. She decides to put on her decentralized intelligence hat and go ahead and search out what is up with Laura. And she finds out that Laura is, in fact, the subject of a very, very serious true crime story in real life. And this is an exploration of who really owns these stories, right? Are these true crime stories? Like, do they end up being owned by the victims and people who experience them and the families surrounding them? Or do they become American legends? We just read this month a book about the Ted Bundy murders by Jessica Knoll that was just so good. We're going to discuss it tonight, actually. There's so much to discuss. But it's kind of an extension of that same conversation that we've been having when these stories of true crime that is popular, right? We have all these documentaries kind of in some ways glamorizing these very, very dark stories. And they take them out of the place of real life and into entertainment. And so this is a fun way to explore that, as well as just like, I don't know, like the things that go viral within like feminine spaces and culture, and all within the wrapping of this psychological edge of your seat thriller with a true crime story. So that is Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater. And of course we have all of these beautiful, beautiful quotes and things that you just have to run and grab a highlighter and a book tab because you just want to save the language. The writing is absolutely chef's kiss. And I actually featured a quote from this book on the Glam Fall Reading Dashboard, which if you are a newsletter subscriber, I will be sending out right after you have a chance to watch this video so that there's no spoilers. Okay, next we have another bit of a back to school moment with Graham Moore's The Wealth of Shadows. Okay, let's talk about The Wealth of Shadows and what it is. So the reason this has back to school vibes is because it is both a thriller and historical fiction. So this is a book that you are going to learn a tremendous amount about history without feeling like you're learning about history. So it is a World War II book, but this is for you. If you think you know everything about World War II and you're sick of hearing about World War II and you feel like the narrative that we've been taught about World War II is actually not even correct, it's kind of been Americanized, this is the book for you. So this book is a financial thriller. So very, very different. The bookseller who sold me this told me that he stayed up all night reading it. He could not put it down. And it's just so different. And it could almost be nonfiction because everything in it is true, but of course the dialogue and the scenes are imagined, right? Like all of historical fiction, but everything in it actually happened. So this is the story of economic warfare during World War II and how we, the United States, started engaging in economic warfare to win wars as opposed to just kinetic warfare. And so one of the main characters in this book is John Maynard Keynes. If you've ever heard of Keynesian economics and you're like, what are people talking about? This is where we get Keynesian economics and the basis for a lot of our foreign policy and our economic policy today. So without kind of the grasp of Keynesian economics, we get kind of lost in understanding, like, why are we doing what we're doing, and like thinking it's working. Is it even working? Doesn't seem to be working. So this is a book where you're going to learn a tremendous amount about history, but you're not going to be able to put it down. And it's a thriller. So it's fun all around, but gives us that back to school experience where we are learning something new and we are reading something fun. And yeah, it's welcome to the new term energy. So those are my September titles. Which one do you think everyone voted to read? And the winner is Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater. Did you get it right? Tell me in the comments, which one of these would you want to read? Which one did you vote for? Are you going to be reading with us? And which ones are at the top of your fall reading list? I would love to know. All right, next we have a bonus book. So this is my announcement of our September bonus book. So our bonus books are books that we did not vote to read on, but we just have to. We have to read it because it's either a literary event or it's just like too perfect. So our bonus book for September, this is actually the first book we're going to be talking about in September, and it is Yesteryear. Okay, this is a literary event book, right? This is the biggest release of the year. I have been wanting to read it all year. It came out early in 2026, but I mean, the cover was screaming September. You'll notice all of the covers are teal because that is our color for September. Yes, I color code everything. It's just welcome to the world of paper and glam. So we had to read this in September, and like the cover is giving fall. Even if it wasn't teal, the cover was giving fall. Okay, I'm sure you know about this book if you are in the reading space, but just in case you have not seen it, this book, first off, had a huge publishing battle for who was going to purchase the book and be able to sell and market it. So one of our OG gals, Dee, who has been a member of Paper and Glam Book Club for well over 10 years. She was a chatter for many years. She now works for Thomas Nelson, and Thomas Nelson was bidding on this book along with Knopf, and Knopf won. And they are like one of the most celebrated publishers who published The Diary of Anne Frank, the cookbooks of Julia Child, and just so many more books that have become part of American lore. And so Yesteryear it's basically a takedown of Christian women. And I was like, who better to speak on this than me? No, I'm just kidding. Who better to speak on it than our women? Not everyone is Christian, but many of us are. And I just think it's going to be so fun to read this and kind of see the takedown of tradwife culture. So as we've talked about, if you saw my Life Feels Different video, then we kind of talked about this progression where we had like the girl boss era, and then we had the pandemic, and then we had like the tradwife era that was kind of like a backlash against the girl boss era, and kind of us recovering our nervous systems from the girl boss era. And now I think we've landed somewhere in the middle, which is probably a healthy place to be, right? So all that to say, this is very much written as a takedown of tradwife culture. It is of course rumored to be inspired by the one, the only Ballerina Farm. And from what I've read and listened to about it, the vibe is very much like, well, if these tradwives really want to know what it's like, we should send them back into the 1800s, and we'll show them, how good we have it, and that, our idea of modern femininity is correct, and we have it for a reason. So there's just going to be so much to talk about with this book, from Christianity to tradwife culture to tons of misplaced Bible verses and misquoted out of context, or not even misquoted, out of context Bible verses. I've heard the famous Whore of Babylon verse from Revelation, which is an end times prophecy, is quoted in here, almost presented as not being what many believe is the church. There's lots of theories on Revelation, right? But as like being quoted as about, women. And so it's just going to be so good. I cannot wait to discuss this one with you. And I just felt like we couldn't let this release go by without discussing it. And yeah, the great thing about book club is that everyone has a different opinion every single time we meet, and that is what sharpens us, right? That's what makes us and books so interesting, is that we all have no matter what the book is, we all have a different reading experience. And we do a little poll when the meeting kicks off, and you pick, like, 1 star, 5 star, 2 stars, whatever it is, and it's always all over the board every single time. And I just think that is so fun, and it's why we read. So Yesteryear is our bonus pick for the fall season. Welcome to October. October, our theme is, of course, fall. We are reading for fall atmosphere, and I have 3 fall atmosphere books, all with different tones and vibes, all for different readers. And some of these might be for the same reader. So let me introduce you to the October titles. First, we have a classic. We have a 90s classic series, and it is the At Home in Mitford series. So At Home in Mitford by Jan Karen is a series that started being published in the 90s, and she has released a book almost every year for 15 books. So the newest book in the series comes out this October. So this is a prolific series. If Gilmore Girls was a book, it would be this book. This is a Christian fiction series, so it's all good, clean fun. The main character is a single bachelor pastor who is realizing he loves his small town life. He loves all the people in his town, all the quirky characters, very Gilmore Girl-esque, but he wants more from his life. And he has a neighbor that there might just be some sparks flying, and he adopts a dog, and he is in middle age trying to reinvent himself. And I love a reinvention story. I think all of success in life a lot of times is continuing to reinvent ourselves and being honest when the way that we're carrying our life isn't working, or we need a reinvention. And so, or we need to just take the best things from our last era and bring them into a new era. And that is where this pastor finds himself. So if you want to read a cozy fall book set in a town that is like the cast of Gilmore Girls, where we have just regular real life moments and articulations of real life and just the moments that we find ourselves in on the day-to-day, as opposed to the more like fantastical stories that we might find in like a thriller or a cozy mystery or what have you. So I just love articulations of everyday moments. I love the coziness of it all. So if that is for you, this is the first in the series. And again, if you fall in love with it, you're in luck, because you have 15 books to take down. I have long been looking for a series for us to read together as a book club where we could revisit it every year. And this one, I'm hoping everyone wants to read, because then we'd have a series that we could kind of have this shared reading experience. We have been trying to recreate our shared reading experience of the Practical Magic series that we read, I think from 2016 to 2019. No, I think it was, 2016 to 2022. Whenever those books were being published, we read Practical Magic, and then we read them as they came out, and it was just so fun. And we have been looking for a reading experience like that. And yes, the Practical Magic series comes out in this month in September. The movie is a big moment as the characters reprise their roles, and shout out to Jodie. I didn't even know Practical Magic movie was coming out until she told me. So that's the heart behind this reading experience. Next, we have one that, again, just felt like a cultural moment and a good time to put it up for a vote. It is a book that is absolutely going to be on the Paper and Glam canon at some point, because it's just a book we have to read and discuss, because it is a classic, and every year we read a classic together. And we already read Little Women in January, but I decided it might be time to read Wuthering Heights. First off, this edition is gorgeous, so glam fall. Just the ribbon, marker, the book itself is just absolutely stunning. And with the big release of Wuthering Heights this year, I thought it might be fun to discuss the actual work and the movie together and see what we thought of it. So Wuthering Heights, you are probably familiar with the plot, so I'll keep it short. But basically, we have 2 people who grow up together, Catherine and Heathrow, and Heathrow was adopted. So Heathrow is basically a ward or an orphan who is adopted into a wealthy family, as I understand it. I haven't read this. And Catherine and Heathrow are in love. Heathrow thinks that his feelings are not reciprocated, and so he does a total Gatsby move, and he goes out, he makes himself, he gets rich, and he comes back. And he's hoping that this version of himself, Catherine, will fall in love with. And we have this famous diabolical love story that just really explores dark passion, toxic relationships, toxic cycles, and yeah, it's kind of the OG toxic cycle gothic thriller, for lack of a better word, although it's hard to classify it as a thriller by today's standards. But I was wondering if we wanted to read Wuthering Heights together, if this would be the year. I typically run all the gothics together, so I would do, like, as an example, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, and like Rebecca together, or like Picture of Dorian Gray, like anything kind of in that same mode. So if we need a classic for the year, then I know the classic is, we're gonna have a classic, right? But thought we'd try it because nothing says fall, nothing says October like Wuthering Heights. Last but not least, we have a book called The Caretaker. This was on the list of the New Yorker's best books of 2024. The cover is this old historic cemetery, which I just thought was really October-y without being like Halloween-y. And this book is about a man who got polio as a child. And because of that, he is somewhat disfigured and he feels like he's not going to have a normal life. And so he feels disqualified for a normal life, and he decides to become the caretaker at this historic cemetery. And of course, weird stuff happens in the cemetery, but it is not a ghost story by any means. It is a story of the way that we can use love to justify almost anything. And so what happens is, so this is a bit of historical fiction book, but I because it's set in, you know, it's set at a certain point in history, but I hate to put it in that category because this really is just a book about humanity. So the character Grant is living his regular life, taking care of this cemetery, when his best and only friend is conscripted to serve overseas in the Korean War. And his best friend says, I need you to take care of my wife. Now, the wife is kind of weird. She's a bit of a weird girl herself, and she is notorious in this little town because she met the husband who's going overseas, and they eloped and got married. And this woman works as a hotel maid in the beautiful hotel in town, and she marries out of nowhere this man who is from a wealthy family, and the family disowns him because he married this woman, and no one knows why he married this woman. And right after their marriage, he is conscripted to go overseas, and so the wife and new baby is left with Grant to take care of. And Grant is like, what the heck? All I know how to take care of is this old historic hilltop cemetery where all this weird stuff happens. And so we have this beautiful exploration of duty and love and honor and what happens in this relationship when the wife and Grant potentially get a little too close. So if you love literary fiction and you kind of want the like best books of the year type moment set inside a compulsively readable and very human story that will help you see things about your own life, that is The Caretaker by Ron Rash. Okay, which one do you think won for our October reading experience? Drum roll, please. And the winner is The Caretaker by Ron Rash. All right, what do you think of the October titles? Which ones are you reading? Which ones are right in your wheelhouse? I would love to know. I'm going to interrupt our Glam Fall Reading Guide debut to tell you about the biggest sale of the year for the Paper and Glam experience. It is our back to school fall sale where you can join us for an annual rate that works out to the founding member OG rate from 2021. So we know the dollar is not what it used to be, but for this sale, it's going to be. So if you are someone who has been craving a personal curriculum of sorts that allows you to have the lifestyle of reading, seasonal living, and Bible study in just under 2 hours a week, that is why I created Paper and Glam, the experience, because we all want that, and we want it in the midst of busy lives, right? There's never going to be a time where it's just all of a sudden easy to have a literary lifestyle, or easy to read the Word of God, or easy to take the time we want out of our lives to set our goals and to do it according to the seasonal rhythms that we were designed to live inside and to have those seasonal experiences. So everything is designed so that if you spend 30 minutes a week thinking about the live stream for a Bible study, let's say we always do 2 chapters of the Bible every gathering. Say you just put it on your phone to play while you're washing dishes. That wouldn't even take 30 minutes, but this is kind of how I've designed things. And then you join the gathering, either watch it live, watch it while you're folding laundry, watch the replay at 1.5 speed, and you get to learn the Word of God word by word with me. We don't skip anything at Paper and Glam. All the weird stuff, it's all there. It's all fun. I try to tell it in a way that is riveting and also encouraging. So that would be like our God and Glam week. Then of course we have book club. That's self-explanatory. You can read a book a month by reading 10 minutes before bed. And that's assuming you don't use audio. Of course, audio, you can do it anytime. And then you just join us for a discussion. All of our live streams are an hour and a half if you're watching live. Of course, if you're watching on like 1.5 speed, it would be an hour. And that gets you a beautiful literary lifestyle. And then we have our seasonal living gathering. And that is a time where we set aside to really root ourselves in the seasonal rhythms. What is the assignment of September, as an example, or whatever month we're walking into? We talk about the emotional tone of the month. We talk about the kind of the areas of life that we are really, it seems like, asked to grow in every single month of the year has a bit of a different divine assignment. I would say September is home. Our growth theme for September, as an example, is home, because the light changes and we start to be more home focused. We start to want to kind of declutter and get back into our routines after summer and really reorient ourselves in our home life. And that might look like putting out the pumpkins. That might look like just selling some things on Facebook Marketplace, but really we orient ourselves in what in the ways that we're asking ourselves to grow each month. And then of course we have all of the things that you come to expect from me and Paper and Glam, which is the vlogs, the home tours, all of that stuff. But my heart for seasonal living is not just an aesthetic experience. I think that's a lot of times what we associate it with, you know, having the, like, maybe like a dreamy fall or making a elaborate seasonal recipe, whatever it is. Of course, the seasonal living lists, which are coming out next month. So if you are not a newsletter subscriber, jump in. I will be announcing their release very, very soon. And that's the heart of seasonal living, right? It's being willing to be present for the month that we're living in, not waiting for a different September when we have, you know, our dream fall or whatever it is, but having the humility to live within the experience that God has given us to live in this month, in this year, and not being willing to miss it anymore. I think some of us have missed it because we feel like we have to, you know, maybe live the perfect August before we can enjoy September, whatever that means, or we find reasons to disqualify ourselves. But the seasons tell us that life is moving forward whether we choose to experience them or not. And in my vlog series and in the Seasonal Living Masterclass, we find ways to live fully rooted and fully alive, fully engaged with our lives within this season of life and this season of the year that God has given us to live. So that is the Paper and Glam experience. I would love to have you with me. We also have Glam Memories included. I've been doing a lot of Glam Memories videos, so I won't go into Glam Memories, but if you're looking for a sustainable memory keeping system, I walk you through mine and a lot of different versions of it. And that's just something that we're going to be doing ongoing together, because I don't think there's anything more powerful that you can deploy in your life to give yourself a deeply engaged analog experience of your life than seasonal living paired with memory keeping. So I would love to have you in the Paper and Glam experience. Don't keep putting it off, right? Don't let yourself say you don't have time, because I've designed this so that everyone has time, right? I think most of us have 2 hours a week we could spare, whether we take that out of our doom scrolling or we do it as we're doing things that we're already doing, right? We can do this while we're washing the dishes. We can do this while we're folding the laundry, and it shouldn't take us. It shouldn't take away from the life that we're already living. That's not how we're made to live. It's meant to be layered on top of our life and make our entire life richer, whether we're talking about reading, whether we're talking about Bible study, seasonal living, or memory keeping. So with that, let's get back to the title debut. All right, November, the last month of our fall semester. The first book in the candidate lineup is Elizabeth Strout's Olive Kitteridge. This is a famous book from 2009. So, you know, I am a bit of a backlist bae. I'm forever reading on the backlist. This is a Pulitzer Prize winner from 2009 that I have wanted as part of the Paper and Glam canon for the longest time. This is the second time that it has been up for a vote. I think we also ran it in maybe 2021, 2022 neighborhood. And it is a literary fiction book about a woman who is a teacher. She's living in a small town and she is in midlife, walking through her life and the people in it and exploring just like literally the meaning of life, the meaning of community, the meaning of calling, the meaning of marriage, all these things we really start to examine as we get closer to midlife. We have this cast of characters, very Gilmore Girl-esque, but in a Pulitzer Prize winning package where we have combined like literary fiction with Gilmore Girls with a serious exploration of the human experience through all its life stages. So Olive is a very, we'll say, normal woman living a very normal American suburban life. Her husband sees their marriage as both blessing and curse. And you see her kind of working through that. And again, I love reading for just beautiful articulations of everyday human life. I live for the art and science of living. I live to figure out how we can do this life with style and grace without making it performative or losing ourselves in the process, right? I want to figure out a way. I've always wanted to figure out, and hopefully I've helped women figure out how to be deeply immersed in our own life, in our goals, in our hobbies, again, without coming at it from a perfectionist, energy depleting place, because everything comes down to how you carry the callings in your life. And so we see Olive Kitteridge starting to work through the way that she has carried the callings in her life, be it teaching, be it marriage, be it life and community. And by the way, I haven't read any of the books that we read together. I never do. I always want the reading experience to be fresh, and I want us to experience it together. So all of these titles, I debut them, and I just tell you why I'm excited to read them and why you might be excited to read them. But this is one of those that it just has to be on the canon. There is a follow-up that came out to a huge reception that has a beautiful fall cover, also with leaves, but more contemporary, less kind of like 90s-esque, more I think 2017, 2018, and it's called Olive Again. So this is a two-parter, and I think it would be so fun to read this one and then follow it up with Olive Again. Next, we have a contemporary classic. This is the one, the only 84 Charing Cross Road. This is a tiny little book that I thought is perfect for November because we do have a shorter month, right, with Thanksgiving. So we meet 1 week earlier, and this is an epistolary novel. So this is a book told in letters, which again, You Got Mail-esque, so fun. This is kind of like an OG You Got Mail, and it is the story of a New York woman having a long correspondence about their great love of reading with a New York bookseller. This book was adapted into a movie, and I wrote down the year so I could share it with you. It was adapted and released in 1987, starring Anthony Hopkins and Anne Bancroft. I've never seen the movie, but I just think whenever there's an adaptation that we can also discuss together, it just really adds something to the reading experience. And so this is just like a heartwarming love story, both about life in general, of course, but also for people who love books and books themselves. So we have this correspondent between Helen Haniff, who is a freelance writer in New York, and then this bookseller in London. He's a used book stealer, so that tells you he's a little quirky because he's not working in a in a new bookstore. It's used, which is just like a totally different experience, right? And this used bookstore, the address is 84 Charing Cross Road. So they correspond for years and they never meet, and they're separated geographically and culturally, but they are brought together by their love of books and reading. And I just think that is so incredibly timely. There's a review that I wanted to read you by Virginia Evans, who wrote the New York Times bestseller, The Correspondent, that has been all the rage. And she said, "Everything is so chaotic and weird and depressing and lonely, and this book feels like the antidote to all of that." And just in the vein of Life Feels Different, I just thought that maybe this is the time and the season for this book. And all of the books in November are what I call canon musts. It means if they don't win this year, eventually we're going to read them together because they just have to be part of the canon. And so these are also all reruns. So they're books that have run in the past at various different times, some of them 5-6 years ago, most of them 5-6 years ago, or a couple years ago. And so this is, it's a must read for every reader, and you'll really kind of see the antecedents of this book in just everything you come across in literature. Like, this book is just the inspiration for so many different things, it feels like, whether we're talking about You Got Mail or the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society, whatever it is, you just kind of see this book kind of everywhere. So that is 84 Charing Cross Road. And then lastly, a book that is near and dear to my own heart that we absolutely have to read. It is Friends in Napa. So this book is a thriller. And of course, it is set in my hometown, and it is written by a travel writer for Condé Nast. So this book is absolutely spicy. It's full of one-liners and zingers, just roasting modern culture, roasting American culture, roasting Napa culture, and I am just so here for it. So there's a quote I wanted to read you. So Mindy Kaling called this book smart and wildly entertaining, like drinking a glass of wine with an endlessly witty, scandalous friend. So we are here for that. So that's the preamble and what happens in this book. Okay, so this book is about college friends that come together to celebrate the opening of one of their friends' wineries in Napa. So first you have the setting with that, just like the footnote would be that, like, in Napa, having like a winery, having a vineyard is kind of like a vanity metric, right? Like, everybody's got a vineyard, it feels like. And so these college friends are expecting to have like these like elaborate wine-filled beautiful dinners and like vineyards and just like the full Napa winery experience. They're expecting to celebrate together. But of course, like all old friendships, there were some friendships. There's underlying jealousy and unfinished stories and just like resentments, and all of that starts to bubble to the surface. And then someone ends up dead. And you have this experience very like Agatha Christie and Then There Were None meets modern contemporary thriller set in Napa, with just gripping prose and just quotes that absolutely slay you and make you examine yourself in modern life. And that's just right in my wheelhouse. And I just love anything set in Napa that is just gonna roast the culture, because like, oh, what fun. So those are our November titles. Which one do you think won? And the winner is Friends in Napa. That is our November title, and I'm so excited to read it with you. Well, I hope all of these titles gave you ideas for your Glam Fall reading experience. I would love to have you with me in Paper and Glam. Again, the back to school sale, the fall sale, this is the best time to join. This is the peak of seasonal heaven. And we are going to be readers, and we are going to be women who never stop learning. We're going to start our new term, and we're going to start it now. We're going to live seasonally. We're going to keep our memories. We're going to figure out the time to read the Word of God, and we're going to figure out the time to have a beautiful literary lifestyle in just under two hours a week. Try it. It'll change you, and I can't wait to have you with me. So with that, I love you guys. Thank you for being here till the end. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. All the links to the newsletter, the seasonal living list, everything is linked below, and I can't wait to see you soon. Are we gonna do the fall reading guide? We are? Do you want to tell them about the books we're gonna read? You're gonna tell them from over there?